Excuse me. You are officially an incinerator. Welcome to Incense and Common Sense, the live streams that we do here on Alert Zone TV. Shout out to everybody because this is a worldwide movement, definitely. I would love for you guys and girls to become active citizens of the Alert Zone TV. Y'all already know how to do that. Hitting the subscribe button, hitting the bell with all so you can be notified when we drop fruitful and nutritious content. Giving the video a like, sharing, all that good stuff. Definitely. It's 9 o'clock Central Time out here in the Central Time Zone. As you guys can see, rocking one of my old revolver mugs. Definitely hope everybody's having a good night wherever they are. I give everybody a couple minutes to get up in here like we always do. So as you come in, make sure you hit the like button, please. That helps us with the algorithm. Also, if you got any products that you'd like to have reviewed on the channel, reach out to me. Get on board with me now, especially if you're a startup, because this channel gonna be blowing up. It's creeping there. I'm fighting this little shadow band, but it's creeping there. Definitely. All right, we got Mr. 57 in the house. What's going on, brother? Appreciate you for tuning in. Definitely make sure you hit that like button as you come in. Give everybody a couple minutes to get up in here. Been a little bit since I did a good live stream. The other day I did that live stream. That was kind of, I decided I didn't want to film the video. So I decided to go ahead on and just do a live stream. You know, I knew it was early in the morning and everybody was at work, but definitely. So y'all a couple minutes to get up in here and we're going to have a interesting topic. For those of you who new to this channel, understand something. Everything we talk about here is 2A effective. It affects the 2A community, whether you believe it or not. If you'll just take the time out and listen to the nutritious and fruitful content that we have here. Yeah, right now, man, think our brother Black Rambo just got back on, man. He was talking about his shadow ban. You know, right now, it's that time. We just going through some things, you know. But having people like you and other people that constantly visit the channel, y'all know we here. Y'all keep spreading the word. We keep putting out this good content. People gonna see it. People gonna see it, definitely. It's better than that AI generated content that they have out here. I see some of them like best guns or new guns to come out this year and what have you. And there be a lot of that AI generated content. And it's not as entertaining as having the real thing, you know. So definitely. I chose this topic, boy, because I think it's a hot button topic. And I think it's something that we have to discuss, you know. So that's why I chose this topic. One thing about AI, it can't give you no authenticity. By the way, shout out to a regular gun guy for talking about that authenticity. How a lot of this stuff can't be replaced even though they're going to try because you're looking for authenticity. When you see me do this, you're looking for the authenticity in it. And the authenticity is what turns people on. You know, I am myself. As I said, you know, when I first started, I used to use the word fire content, but shout out to Chris TV. Chris TV, GHG Hustle, Real Rambo J. Chris TV would say fire TV, fire content and what have you, and other people. So I just decided let the young studs have that because that's their lane, and I know my lane. You know, I'm the old dude. I'm the fruitful and nutritious content. It's kind of like looking at Brussels sprouts and cauliflower. If you're not a person that constantly eats that, you look at it, you frown up at it, you say, ugh, but you buy it because you know it's good for the body. This channel is not always the glossy channel. I don't always have firearms on here. Sometimes you see the topic and you frown. Because I know a lot of people, how they get people to tune in is they put their topics. And a lot of people like clickbait type topics. You frown when you see this channel, but after you digest what we say here, you be like, damn, I needed that. If I hadn't had that, we good for the body. So appreciate everybody. I see we got 4 people in here. We need to get those likes up. As you come in, hit the like button. Even if you only allowed to stay for 2 or 3 minutes because you at work or what have you. All right, let's go ahead and get into tonight's topic. I asked the question: should parents be charged for their teens' crimes, or their children's crimes? And what made me ask this question is, throughout the years of me watching YouTube and watching different genres, news, all kind of stuff that I watched on YouTube, I would always go in the comment section. And I would see people say the parents need to be charged. The parents need to be charged. And as of late recently here, that conversation or that comment has been passed a lot about parents being charged. So I decided to ask, should parents be charged when teens commit crimes? Now, for some people, the answer is yes. I say to those people this. And the reason I'm bringing this up is, especially here in America. Like I said, as far as other countries, I know other countries have young criminals. Here in America, definitely. Excuse me. The reason I ask that is, a lot of people condemn children and say their parents need to be arrested for a crime they commit. Here's the thing. All these kids committing crimes don't live in broken homes. The narrative and the origin of that comment had a racial undertone to it. But I want everybody to understand something. At any given moment, one of our kids can go out and commit a crime. Do you think it's fair? Let's just say you got 3 children. One of your children go out and be part of a robbery crew. They go rob a grocery store. They go rob somebody, and they get arrested. And they go commit a crime. And in the process of them committing a crime, somebody loses their life. You might want to think this over if you one of them people who believe children should be charged, their parents should be charged along with them. Because what about your other children? And let's be honest. How can I say this? Some kids commit crimes that come from the ideal upbringing, and their parents do all they can to keep them from that type of lifestyle. Let me go ahead and throw it out there. School shooters. All right, we got Peter Pan. What's going on? School shooters. A lot of these school shooters have their moms and dads at home, and yet they wind up shooting up the school. Now I noticed, was it Colt Gray down there in Georgia, and Ethan Crumbley in Michigan. Parents were charged with accessories or what have you after they went on their little rampages at school. But for most school shooters, their parents don't get charged. We got the carjacking, we got the smash and grab, we got a lot going on. We got youth across the country committing crime. And that's why I decided I just wanted to ask that question. Are you really, really sure that parents should be charged for what their kids commit, crimes their kids commit, because if you're a parent, that can easily be you. I'm more of this. I'm more of a case by case basis. I think a lot of people get emotional and they don't understand things about a blanket law or a blind law. Because when you sign up for something like that, that's the assumption that your children will never go out and do something wrong. Some people, some criminals will even tell you, when you talk to them, I had everything I could have wanted. I had the perfect upbringing, and I chose this life of crime. My parents didn't do anything wrong. They did their jobs. That's why I decided to let's just have this talk, because at any given time, this can happen to any of us. And then what? A lot of parents don't send their children to school to get failing grades, and yet some of them turn out with failing grades. Sometimes they should accuse their parents of being lazy. No, it's not always that. So I just thought that I would bring that up and let everybody know you have to be careful with blanket laws. Because as I said, the assumption is that this law doesn't affect you. You just never know, especially with children. I got into things when I was young. I wasn't raised to be that way. I just was. I just like to be where the happiness was. By the way, we need to get them likes up. Hit the like button as you come in. The carjackings, the home burglaries, the mall takeovers and all this stuff. I think some of these parents know their children are going to get into things. And I think some of these parents don't know. I'll give you an example. There's kids that dropped out of school when I was in school to sling dope. And basically be the man of the house. Kind of like back in the old days when guys would drop out of school to go work on the farm or go work at whatever factory because the dad passed on or whatever to take care of his mom and his younger siblings. There was guys throughout my lifetime when I was young that selling dope was how they brought money into the house. Their moms knew they were going out there to do that. That's something different. But I can say the average parent doesn't raise their children to go shoot up schools or to go out and commit a crime. And this is why I asked that question. You have to be careful if you believe that everybody... All right, what's going on, Mr. 007? We appreciate you for stopping through. Make sure you hit that like button. Even if you're only in here for a couple seconds, make sure you hit that like button. With all the craziness going on. Now, a lot of times we hear people say, oh, what he got with the wrong crowd. I never figured out who's the wrong crowd. Because in the wrong crowd, everybody's parents in the wrong crowd swear their child just got hooked up with the wrong person because they didn't raise them to be like that. And sometimes it's true. Some people, they didn't raise their children to be like that and they got roped into it. And then some children just like to be where the happiness is. I like to be where the happiness was, and sometimes there was unfortunate things that happened. I can say my mom didn't raise me to be like that. I didn't get raised to be like that. It's just what I was. And so this is why, we have these discussions here. This is why this is the nutritious and the fruitful channel. Because I've seen this question be asked on other platforms and automatically people jump to, yeah, the parents should be charged. Yeah, think about it when it's your kid. When it's your kid who you stay on, when they get caught at school doing something they don't have no business, that warrants law enforcement getting involved. Think about it when your kid is, this particular time decided to get in the car and they take you to jail for it. You know what I mean? So you have to be careful about these blanket laws, man. Definitely. Also, I wanted to address something. is shifting gears a little bit for a minute. And it's kind of like this. For those of you who don't know, the Attorney General of New York, Letitia James, has been indicted for, I think, mortgage fraud or something like that. I had been expecting that this was going to come down. I had read the complaint against her a while back, saying that she used her dad as her husband on the paperwork to get a cheaper rate or whatever, allegedly, because she hasn't been convicted of nothing. And the grand jury has chosen to indict her. A lot of people are saying this is just Trump retaliating and this and that and what have you. I just want to say this just for a minute. Then we'll get back to the subject. Forgive me. Whether you like the man or you don't, for 4 years, Donald Trump was not the president of the United States. And that man spent 4 years in prison. I'm sorry. 4 years in court. From one lawsuit to another lawsuit to another lawsuit. We know a lot of it was witch hunt. Because if the things that they were accusing him of was things that allegedly he done before he became president. So if they wanted to charge him with it, they could have been charged him with it. But they dragged him up and down through court. Got him convicted as a felon. Fannie the Mammy Willis had her chest all stuck out. Alvin Bragg, Letitia James, and what have you. Everybody know they executed lawfare against Donald Trump, whether you like the man or not. Because they thought they never was going to have to deal with him again. They never thought Donald Trump would run again and actually win. So they figured they was in the clear. Like I said, from what the paperwork I saw, she did use fraud. Whether she get convicted of it or not, well, that's up to the jury and what have you. I said all that to say this. As humans, we all do wrong. But you have to understand, when you're operating for wrong, when it comes back on you, you got to take it. Letitia James, Alvin Bragg, and Fannie Willis was fools for prosecuting Donald Trump. They should have let somebody else do that. Because he's got the whip now and it don't feel good. So, but back to my earlier question about should parents be charged for their kids' crimes. Like I said, I'm a person of it should be a case by case basis, just because you don't know. Unfortunately, when kids go out the door, you can't control everything they do. If we could control everything our children did, I think there wouldn't be no such thing as crime out here. So that was just, like I said, something I wanted everybody to give thought about. You have some guys. Oh, it's another thing about that. I want you guys and girls to understand something, especially in today's times here in America. For the most part, you're not allowed to really whip children. Now, law enforcement can beat your child. Law enforcement can tase your child or shoot your child or beat the crap out of them if they don't listen. You just can't do it. So I think it's unfair to totally hold parents accountable when you strip them of, to an extent, their authority. Up here where I live in Iowa, I've seen kids tell their parents, go ahead and threaten to whip me so I can call the police on you and have you arrested. Is a comment that they pass around to each other. I've seen it in public. I've seen it in work myself with these kids saying this to their parents. So you only can do so much. For those of you who don't live in America, this is a worldwide movement. You guys know we watched definitely in Australia. I've had Australians reach out to me, Brazilians, Mexicans, people from the UK. I've had a Pakistani and Iraqi, Iranian. I mean, I've been surprised of some of the places that people have checked in from. But if you don't live in America, especially on the mainland, you don't understand. The child discipline laws here are a whole lot different than they are in your country. Um, you run the risk of going to prison, getting arrested, losing your children here in America for kicking their asses. I think that was one of the mistakes that we made in the country when we took the authority from the parents and gave it to the children. Like I said, an officer, a stranger, which is a stranger to your children, has more rights to bust their head open than you do. Um, Only thing when they go out and commit certain crimes, you have to pay the price for it. So if you one of those people that believe that the parents should be automatically charged, I hope that I've put it on your mind. I hope that I've convinced you to think that over or to be very careful and give it some real thought because it can happen at any time, any place, by any kid. And do you honestly want to go to prison for something you didn't raise your children to do? For something that they got caught up in? It's all kinds of ways that your children can fall into traps and wind up in the midst of a heinous crime. Something simple as just being in the car or standing on that particular corner or just knowing a particular thing was going to happen that happened, you know. So you guys and girls, you got to think about that. So I know I should have posted about this earlier today. Uh, it's kind of a, I'm not going to say impromptu thing because I did post it on the community tab, which, by the way, if you're new to this channel, the community tab is usually what you want to keep your eye on. That's where I post all of my notices if I'm going to do a live stream for the most part. I usually post it on the community page so you'll see the postings pop up. And you can read it up top and see if we're going to be live streaming or what have you, you know. So this is another reason you got to be legally armed. Because some people do send their children out there to commit crimes. I remember watching the first 48, and there was a kid that I think they said since the time he was 11 or 12 or 13, his dad had him breaking in cars and what have you and stealing. So, I mean, you just got to be careful, man. This is another reason, like I said, to be legally armed out there. Unfortunately, as adults, you might get put in a situation where you got to put a kid down. We live in an era where, from inside the school to outside on the corner, the children have shown that they will pull adults down and other children without batting an eye. So, you definitely have to think that over, man. It's unfortunate. It's unfortunate that it's like that. You know, if you came from the old channel, you remember I asked a question about youthful offenders. If you had to, could you put one down? And I got angered somebody because he jumped up in the comment section and went off on me, and I had to explain to him I didn't call for the violence against children. What I asked is, if youthful offenders come up to you, would you put them down? Because most people would hesitate because they're children. So, excuse me, that's why I said what I said, you know. But yeah, man, I just want everybody to think about that. Hopefully, like I said, I give you food for thought here on this channel. Yeah, you know what? I don't think none of us really and truly want to have to do this to a child. You know, I'll be honest. Most people don't want to do nothing to no children. I'm just throwing it out there because here on the Alert Zone TV, we have the conversations about the 2A community that's hard for other people to talk about, or maybe that's not their niche. You know, like I said, I'll lead to discussion and bring the conversations out because they 2A relevant and they need to be had. Yeah, you know, and that's the hard part about dealing with these children, man. As you get older, you know, I don't think nobody goes out looking for kids nobody legally armed goes out looking for kids to do something to. We just don't do that. But it's a part of why you get legally armed. And I know some people get emotional and they answer off the top of their head without listening to themselves. You just have to think about it, man. Um, you might have to deal with some of these youthful offenders. That's number one. And number two, you have to think about advocating for parents to be charged for the crimes of their children. All right, we got Dr. T in the house. Appreciate you stopping through. Just having a conversation about this. One of them conversations that need to be had about should parents be charged for their children's crimes. Like I said, I think I would say no or a case by case basis. I wouldn't say yes just because it's a blanketed thing to say yes and you're opening the door, unfortunately, for interpretation and the way the law gonna be enforced. That's problem number one right there. Number two. Number three, there's people that kids. Yep, you gotta worry about retaliation. Is a lot that goes into being legally armed that a lot of people don't even think about. And that's why I like to have them kind of discussions on here, you know. Definitely, I would love for the youth to be chiming in off of if you have young people in your family that's carry age or teenagers, turn them on to this channel. I would love to have teenagers and young people watching this channel also because it can kind of give them an idea of what they dealing with and help them steer clear of some of the vices that's out here in the street. Because like I said, there's kids out here that's never gotten into none. Yeah, yeah. That's why I say, Dr. T, you a lot of people will be like, nah, you lock the parents up. You sure you want to open that box? Because here's the thing. When you champion that, you got to do it across the board. You can't say, well, we're going to pass a law that says adults are going to be held accountable for their children's crimes. Then you pick and choose who you're going to do this with. So you have to be careful. I would say the way you word it is you do it, we'll do it on a case-by-case basis. And if the evidence show that the parent was complicit, then yeah. But to just blanketly say, oh no, lock the kids up. Nah, man, there's a lot of kids out there, you know. And I talk about that. Being raised the way I was and around the people I was raised around, being around the criminal element my whole young life. There was some dudes and chicks that they weren't about that lifestyle. They just happened to be at the place when a crime was being committed. And then there's kids that's what they was. You know, as they say, how they say they bout that or they that dude or they that chick. There's some guys and girls that they was about that. That's what they are. And there's some people that just happen to be there, you know. You see these cases on the first 48. Young offenders. One guy get guilty by association. One guy did the shooting, and all four of them go down. If that happened to your child, do you want to go to prison for that? Like I said, think about it. If you got multiple children, and you got a child that's a troublemaker, do the rest of your children suffer for one of your children going out and committing crimes? I don't think that would be a very appropriate thing to do because now you're going to have more children that don't have have parents around or, you know, orphanages and all that. So you have to be careful. Because you're going to have people from all walks of life. As I said, the parents should be locked up with the children. That phrase became popular through a racial undertone. And then it blossomed into what it is now. But I just think that most people, if they stopped and thought about it, they definitely would not and will not support a law like that. Because remember this, some of y'all have to raise y'all grandchildren. For whatever reason, you wind up raising your grandchildren. So let's just say all your children are grown and you inherit 2 or 3 grandchildren. Hell, there was a woman up here in the town I live in. Um, she's an elderly woman. She raising 5 grandchildren. All their parents got strung out on meth. And 2 of those little girls, boy, one of them been kicked out of all the schools in the town. She can't even go to none of the schools. She's so fucking bad. Do we lock up the grandmother for that? Do we lock up the grandmother for some of the stuff that she came to school and did? People would say that that's unfair. Well, technically, that's her legal guardian. So this is the type of stuff you have to think about. What if you wind up having your niece or your nephew or your granddaughter, your grandson, your grandchildren, and one of them goes out there and commits some kind of a heinous crime or just commit adult crimes in general, and they want to arrest you for that? Is that fair? What if you are teaching them right from wrong and they went out there and got themselves in trouble? Now I will say this. With the proper due diligence, I can see children being charged as adults. I know a lot of times we might say that their mind ain't developed and they still children. Oh, yeah, man. Yeah, man. We got my brother well dressed in the house. We got another celebrity. Dr. T, well dressed. Mr. 57. Everybody that come here is celebrity shit. I miss chit-chatting with y'all. You know, I haven't went off the rails in a while, man. I definitely appreciate y'all. Matter of fact, that damn camera that they bought me for my birthday, I just finally opened the box and looked at it. I'm going to try and figure it out, man. And hopefully this weekend I got a little bit of time, if I don't get too busy, to go out there and do a couple of test runs with it. So when I do my hunting videos or what have you, or when I'm out shooting at the range, you guys can see what I see, you know. Excuse me, as I said, next year I think this channel should blow up. I got some things, some ideas I'm working on, so definitely. But yeah, like I was saying, you have to be careful, man, when it comes to these children. When it comes to these children, you have to be careful about, do you want blanketed prosecution for parents? Because a lot of y'all who think this not going to affect you, going to find yourself on a TV like that with your head down and your arms cuffed behind your back. And you'll be saying, but my other children, but I didn't teach them to do this. I didn't teach them to do that. I don't know where they learned that from. So you have to be careful. Definitely. Yeah, man, like I said, it's just all the pitfalls of children. Here's another thing. We definitely worldwide. We appreciate that. Worldwide movement. Yeah, man. Definitely when it comes to the children. Yeah, man, it's sad but true, man. It look. I knew some guys and girls that they had it. Me myself, I got into stuff I didn't have no business getting into. But I always made it clear I never blamed my mom, and I always said if I ever got caught doing something I didn't have no business, leave my mama out of it, because she didn't do nothing wrong. She taught me right from wrong. I just decided to do some of the things I did, and I was willing to pay the price. And unfortunately, everybody's not like that. You know, a lot of these kids, they just not willing to pay the price. You know what I mean? And I can see the parents getting just as much time as the children. I don't think that's a good thing. Like I said, the people who peddle that, you have to be careful. You definitely have to be careful. I know this is a couple weeks old. There was a person that lost their life on the college campus that peddled a whole lot of bullshit. And we all saw what happened to him on video. So you might want to be careful about what you peddle. You might want to think. I know sometimes, yeah, I know sometimes you may feel a certain way, but I'm telling you, the most successful people in the street business is the ones who think before they react. Yeah, man, we all been guilty of doing stuff we don't have no business. Because if that was the case, there wouldn't be no crime out here. If we all listened to what we was told. I just asked that question, like I said, because I see a lot of people. They answer, you should lock the parents up. You should lock the parents up. Yeah, until it's your fucking child, and you have to look at the rest of your children and say, yeah, I'm going to catch this 20-year bid real quick. You know what I mean? Your brother, your sister got me in a 20-year bid. So I got to go do these 20 years. So you have to be very careful when you start mouthing off about that. Yeah, just blanket it, definitely, so I just thought I'd ask that question. I just think that there's just so much about the 2A community and the reason we get legally armed that we don't talk about. Yeah, facts. It ain't all fun then. Yeah, man, look, there's a lot. When I meet people when I'm out here, I'm like a Z-list celebrity. Once in a while, people might actually notice who I am. When I talk to people out here about the Second Amendment, I tell them there's way more to being legally armed than people think it is. Not only legally through the paperwork, but socially, understanding certain things. Retaliation. A lot of people don't understand because you legally armed and you legally put somebody down, it don't end there. For some people, it just starts. Some people will look over the shoulder the rest of their lives after they put somebody down legally because there's people out here that feel their loved ones or their friends should be allowed to victimize you and you shouldn't have nothing to do back except take it. If they stealing your car from you, you should give it up. If they're shooting you, you shouldn't shoot back. If they're robbing you, you should let them go. Ladies, unfortunately, if these guys in there raping you, you should just lay down and let them have their fun. I mean, there's people that believe that their loved ones should be allowed to do this to you and you shouldn't take your gun out and blow their fucking head off. You'd be surprised at it. And it doesn't matter. If you watch the first 48, I know it's a TV show, but you see it all the time. Guys go and retaliate for other guys that there was a known criminal. They knew what he was out there doing. And they went and got retaliation for him. Well, guess what? Part of the streets is you got to understand this. As some people in the South say, when you dance with the devil, you got to pay the fiddler. I always say, when it's time to lay down, you got to take it. Dish it out, you got to take it. You steal cars, when your car come up stolen, you can't cry about it. You had to do like I had to do. I had to take it. I looked for it the first day it was gone. The second day I say, fuck it. If they find it, they find it. I'm going to work. I ain't going to let nothing stop me from making my money. And I caught the bus to work. When it happened to me the second time, I rode around for a couple hours looking for my car. I didn't find it right away. I said, fuck it. Monday I got up. I got a ride with a coworker. Later that week, they found my car. That's just what it was. You got to, when you dishing it out, it's fun. When it come back, you got to take it. You got to take it. And a lot of people don't like that part. That's the part of this they don't like. The punishment phase. Because you don't get to pick the punishment. When you commit a crime, you can't tell the victim how to feel. And you can't tell the victim when they should let it go. And a lot of people have a problem with that. A lot of people feel like if I stole your car and a week later they got your car back and I didn't wreck it, well, you got your car back. So 2 years later, what you still complaining about? I'm complaining about you came and stole my fucking shit. And I lost my sense of security. That's what I'm complaining about. And because you're the criminal, you can't tell me how to feel. And unfortunately, we as humans have that real bad. We love to victimize people and then tell them how to feel and how long you should be before they get over it. And it doesn't always work like that. It doesn't always work like that. Something that may be small to you, your sense of security, man, that's hard to get back. If you get up and go to work every day and you go out one day and your car is missing, and for a week your car is gone, and you get your car back a week later and it's in operable condition, you still done lost your sense of security because that car was taken from you. And you may carry that for you with you for the rest of your life. And the guy or guys or girls or whoever was behind stealing your car don't get to come tell you 6 months later, man, you should shut the fuck up. At least you got your car back. It's over with. Because it ain't never over with. Up here, you always going to think about that. You're always going to think about what you could have and should have done better. I'm telling you guys and girls this because I went through it. But I understood there was a time I was out there, so I had to take it. And I took it. And I watched most people can't take it. Most people can't. When it comes to that, they can't take it. They can't take it. It's like the whole shooting thing. This is why I tell people to get legally armed. Because it's easy for criminals to shoot at somebody who can't shoot back. Yep. Yep, that's right, Mr. 5-7. They'll move on and you'll still grief, but it's easy to shoot somebody when they back turn or when they can't shoot back because they ain't got nothing. It ain't too fun when the playing field is level. If you don't believe me, I know I shouldn't bring it up, but I'm going to bring it up again. Uvalde. This guy was ready for combat. We had the Call of Duty warriors show up, and when it was time for them to get out there on the playing field, they backed down because somebody else had an equalizer. See? And they still had a lopsided thing over him because they had more people with more artillery. They had on body armor, and they had damn shields. And they were still afraid to go in and confront that guy, even at the peril of children. That is always going to be a moment I'll never let go because it showed something. Law enforcement, they're not these superhuman people. Everybody thinks that FBI agents, let's just say them, like they got powers to look through the fucking wall like they so smart. Nah, they're human like everybody else. And that showed that. So when it comes to this situation, you know, these children, just things like that, man. You guys and girls have to think about it. Especially if you're a parent or your grandparent or you're a legal guardian of somebody that's a kid. Be careful about saying these children parents need to go to jail with them because you don't know the story. You may assume, and let me go ahead on and address the elephant in the room. Because of the mainstream media, you may assume that the kid may or may not have a dad in the home. You may assume that the parents don't care. You don't know because you don't live up in there. You don't know how those children are raised. So that's why you have to be careful with this craziness about lock the parents up because it's got to be across the board, period, point blank. And if it's your child and you voted for it, you can't say, oh, I'm having second thoughts, I regret it. No, you got to take it. And the best way to not have regrets is to think about it. Yeah, that Uvalde, man. Like I said, I just looked at it as it's easy to shoot somebody or do something when you got the element of surprise and you know the person, you got them outganged, outgunned, out everything. It's kind of like punching somebody in the face from behind when you walk up behind them and sneak them, as opposed to squaring up with them. When they square up with you, you might not be so brave. It's more ninja than a gunslinger. And that's just what that was, you know. So, like I said, you know, I just thought that I would bring this up, ask this question, because it's relevant to the 2A community. Because we all out here getting legally armed. And unfortunately, no matter where you live in this country, you may have to run across a young offender. Also, when you're looking at different news clips around the country and around the world, you have to be careful before you jump to judgment and say that the parents need to be locked up. Because that would mean the assumption that the parents are doing something wrong and you just don't know. Um, in America, as expensive it is to live here, sometimes people have to work 2 or 3 jobs just to keep the lights on and the roof over your head. Well, guess what? Can't watch your kids all the time. You even have to be careful in this day and age about who you leave children around, because I'm going to be very vulgar for what I'm about to say, but every time you look up somebody trying to stick a damn dick in one of these children. So you have to be careful. You know, you just can't leave them around anybody. You just don't never know. You know, you just don't never know out here. And before you point the finger at somebody else parenting, don't throw stones from a glass house, especially in a case where saying parents should be charged for their children's crimes, because you just don't never know. You just never know. You know, we had this thing back in New Orleans, not limited to New Orleans, where we said the preachers always had the worst children. The preachers' children was always the biggest homemongers in the fucking school. They was always the biggest homemongers and knuckleheads in the damn neighborhood. The damn preacher's children. So what, you gonna lock the fucking pastor up? You kidding me? Come on, man. You don't know. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Yeah, you just can't. You can't, man. You just don't know. You don't know what's the situation with these parents. Um, Another thing, as parents, we have to fight influence outside of the home. Sometimes some people have influence on your children that don't live with your children. That's a real thing around this world. Um, Sometimes kids see what they imitate what they see. May not always be the right thing, but they imitate it. I'll just say this: quote unquote hood blacks, those of us who grew up in the neighborhood, you know what I mean, as opposed to middle and upper class black children. Um, for the most part, the only difference is the income. Because a person is poor don't mean that they're poorly raised. They may be financially broke or financially poor, but that don't mean they have poor values. Um, that's the lie that gets told, but I do understand there's kids that don't come from that environment that want to be. Yeah, you know, so you just have to be careful, man. You teach them right from wrong, and hope that they follow the path that you lead them down. Like I said, you have to be with Ethan Crumbley, that high school shooting up there in Michigan. I Since the parents were charged and convicted, I feel like this: the faculty um, should have also been charged, because he had already drew the notes. He was looking for research and everything, what have you, you know. Well, you know, I disagree. I disagree about the parents being liable for everything, just because, like I said, you just don't never know. You don't know what's going on. Um, you know, skipping school. Shit, they used to call me the damn cut king. My mama sent me to school. There'd be times I just skipped, and then she finally found out, and I got my ass kicked and what have you. But still, you know, she didn't tell me. She didn't raise me to do that. Um, I've took my punishment for everything wrong I've ever done, and I've took it. So, you know, I know the concept of charging parents for what their children do wrong. I understand the concept behind it. The problem is that's something very vague, and that's making a whole lot of assumptions with a law like that. Because as I said before, um, if everybody did what their parents told them to do, I'm very bad at rooting out our problem and finding solutions. Well, I mean, we can agree to disagree. I'm just not going to be the type that's going to jump out there and say that parents should be charged for the children just because I know better. I knew a lot of kids that did. Uh, skip to my loop. Yeah, man, my ninth grade year. I just didn't like the school that they sent me to. I didn't want to go there. I mean, half the school was condemned, half the building was uh, closed because the floors and stuff was rotted. I mean, fuck, the damn school was damn rat infested. We didn't have no heat. We didn't have no AC. We didn't have no none of that. I didn't like that school, you know. And I guess my mom wouldn't let me use nobody address to go to a better school. I guess my way of lashing out was to just start cutting. Shit, they start calling me the damn cut king, cause I knew all the hiding spots in the school. But I can't blame my mama for that. She sent me to school. Hell, I remember teachers stopping me in the hallway saying, "Hey, you gonna come to class today?" And I tell them, "I don't know how I think about it." That ain't the way my mama raised me. But my mama shouldn't have been punished for that either, and she wasn't. Thank goodness. But it's stuff like that. You have to be careful when you're gonna say that the kid. I'm not saying that you can't. Parents shouldn't be charged, Joe. What I'm saying is, I said earlier. I know you late to the stream. I think it's more of a case by case basis than to just jump out there blanketly. Cause there's gonna be a lot of people going to fucking jail. I'll tell you that. There's gonna be a lot of people. Like I said, there's a lot of people that's raising their grandchildren. There'll be a lot of elderly people in fucking jail if that's the game we gonna play. So I understand the concept of that. What I'm saying is, in practice, is a whole lot more complicated than it is to just say, well, the kid did this, he should be locked up, she should be locked up, and their parents too. There's a whole lot more to that. Once you open that box, you can't close it back. Because then what you'll do is you'll set a precedent. And people going to get caught up in a dragnet that wasn't supposed to be caught up in it. And then you're going to have chaos. Once you get something like that on the books, it's going to be hard to get it off. So that's why I brought that up and I asked that question. Because I noticed from going around to different comment sections on different types of videos, I see that a lot. The parents need to be locked up too. Well, the parents don't always know. And it's easy to say that until it's your child. Because we all feel like we do a good job in our minds raising our children. They won't ever do nothing wrong like that. And you just don't ever know. Influences away from the house has more sway power than a lot of people think they do. You know, there's a lot of people that they have good parents in the home. It's what they see outside that influences them to do wrong. The town I live in, some of the stuff I see these children doing around here, they're imitating. If their parents got charged, it would be a problem. Definitely. So that's just a blanket statement that, like I said, that I think you have to think about when it comes to saying the parents should be charged. Period. Point blank. Like I said, we disagree about that now, and it's okay. I'm glad that you was respectful about it. You feel like I do a very bad job of rooting the problem out. That's fine. I'm just pointing the problem in the first place, because you have to understand something. If we don't have these discussions, we'll never be able to acknowledge the problem. You can't fix a problem until you acknowledge it. And yes, we have a youth crime problem, but we also have to think about how do we fix it. And I'm just saying, to just blanketly say the parents should be charged when their kids commit crimes, you have to be careful, because it's going to have to be like that across the board. That's the thing you got to think about. You know, like I said, I know with all this, a lot of people get emotional, and they just, because when you hear a question like this, the most heinous acts come to your mind. But you have to understand, crime is not limited to just bold, heinous acts. School shootings, uh, carjackings, shooting up the gas station. Crime is not limited to that for children. There's other crimes that children commit. Should you be held liable for it? I just say that I think if we was gonna say something like that, we got to talk about what's the criteria, and I think it's more of a case by case basis because a lot of people under that theory would be in prison. You think we got a lot of people in prison now? If parents start going for what these children do, shit, there wouldn't be no more room. They have to build more prisons. A lot of people, even the rich ones, because remember, Eric and Lyle Menendez, before they killed their parents, they was pulling home burglaries in the neighborhood they lived in. So we can't limit this to poor neighborhoods now. We got to go across the board. And I think that's where we would have the biggest problem because people who got money would try and buy their children's freedom, and it can't work like that. This is why we had these kind of discussions here. I just gave you some broccoli and some cauliflower. You know what? You know what? I'm going to say this about this drill music. G Herbo, I listened to his interview on Club Shay Shay today. It took me a long time to get this through my head because you got to understand, I'm 46. The mainstream media, when I was young, corrupted my mind about a lot. Here's my retort to rap music and drill music. You may not like the things that they say, and I think some of it is off the rockers. But so did people think of that about NWA and Scarface and stuff like that. Also, you have to think about this. These mafia movies. Scarface, The Godfather. See, our criminality is punched. These mob movies, their criminality is being celebrated. You see what I'm saying? And these mob movies have the same influence as some of his rap music. Now I'm going to say something, and I can't tell you how many people's comment sections I've been chewed out for saying this. In modern American times, remember, the deadliest mass shooting in the modern American times was at a country music concert. It wasn't at a rap concert. So I understand. I feel like this. Gangster rap / drill music wasn't romanticized by the mainstream media like these mafia movies. These fucking mafia movies, all they do is every other scene is somebody getting their fucking head blowed off. Every other scene. The mob still exists. The last I knew, they was paying bloods out there to do hits for them. But the mob still exists. The Jewish mafia, the Irish mafia, the Italian mafia, the Russians, the Polish, they all still here. Their crimes is just romanticized. Ours not. You can't tell me nothing about gangster rap / drill music that I can't tell you about these fucking movies that they got out here. All these series, Breaking Bad. Was it Breaking Bad? Or was it Boardwalk Empire and all these other Sopranos and all this fucking shit? Hell, every other damn scene somebody getting thrown up or fed to the fish or something. So I'm going to say this. We're not criminals as much as the TV show us. Just everything we do is criminalized. That's the difference. When we wear jerseys, that's criminalized. That's gang paraphernalia. Whether we make that gang paraphernalia or not. A lot of our hairstyles is criminalized. When you do something and everything you do is criminalized, it makes it more palatable for people to criticize you for it. Gangster rap music is criminalized. But if you go back and you listen to some of this fucking old country music before this country bebop and all this shit, you listen to some of the stuff that they talk about. David Allen Coe, the one who made that song, My Wife Ran Off with a Nigga. Go YouTube some of the music he made back in the days. Goodness gracious, the stuff. I have a saying. I want to say this since we had this conversation. I appreciate you, Mr. Baza, for bringing this up. Because these are the kind of dope discussions that we got to have. Rap music. Yeah. Rap music. I ask people who tell me they don't like rap music why they don't like it. What, because they say nigga? You just had a guy get killed who said that people should be allowed to say that word publicly. What, because they use profanity? All the profane lace cartoons we got out here now? What, because they talk about violence? When we got Pluto TV and whoever else running the fucking Godfather 24/7? What about rap that you don't like? Is it you don't like the people? Because you can't tell me you don't like the content, because whatever community you come from, I can point to your stuff, Narco Corridos. For those of you who Spanish speaking people. It's just drill music in fucking Spanish. Hell, go play GTA 6 and listen to some of the music on there. Yeah. So, yeah, what we have to start doing is, I like stuff across the board, man. Look, rap music is supposed to be for the entertainment value. Watching The Godfather, I've never watched a full Godfather movie. Why, I don't know. I've watched Casino a gazillion times. Goodfellas. I've watched some of this other stuff out here. Was that Breaking Bad? The one where, my man, I can't never pronounce his name. The Puerto Rican cat that played in all the Spike Lee movies. Where he owned them chicken restaurants and he's making that meth and all that. I think that's Breaking Bad. I've seen different parts of that show. Boardwalk Empire, stuff like that. These mob movies. Even real Al Capone. Al Capone was responsible for public massacres, and yet everybody's been taught to romanticize what he fucking did. He was the definition of a thug, and yet we celebrate him. We glorify him. We glorify them out. And they did the same thing that we condemning rappers for singing about. You can't romanticize one and criticize the other one when they're doing the same fucking thing. That's all I'm saying. You have to really ask yourself, when you don't like something, why? And that's why I ask people who tell me they don't like rap music. I just ask them why, and I start going down the list like I gave you. Is it because they say this, and that? Because you, probably a person that I might know, I know you watch this, and that, and you love it. And it does and says the same things that rap music do. Showing The Godfather, a bunch of dudes running around shooting each other up and selling drugs and extorting people and all that. Ain't that's what rappers do? That's what rappers talking about. They doing it in the fucking movie. Imitating real life. Stuff that happened in real life. So what's the difference? You know what I'm saying? Yeah, they treat him like a damn, he was a damn king, you know? That man was, Al Capone was responsible for a lot of open massacres. These public executions that they had during Prohibition and all that. So you just have to be careful, man. If you don't like something, that's fine to say you don't listen to it. But you can't say you don't like it if you don't have a legitimate reason. Because if you don't watch stuff that's profane and things like that, I can understand it. But you can't tell me you don't watch like rap music and you sitting up in here every time Goodfellas come on, you're in front of the fucking TV. Yeah. We all know what went on in that fucking movie. Stealing, killing, and every damn thing else. You can't tell me you like Casino where they out there committing all kinds of heinous acts. Slitting people's throats, putting their heads in vices and squeezing damn near to the eyes popping out. You don't like rap music, but you can watch that fucking shit? Give me a break and a knife. So, you know what? I appreciate everybody tuning in. I done kept y'all for over an hour. I said I wasn't going to do more than 30 minutes, and when they kept going, I definitely appreciate this talk, though. You know, like I said, you may or may not agree with me. If you disagree with me, I understand that. All I'm asking is that let's be respectful and have this conversation. To me, I'm always going to say this. We can't solve these problems until we at least admit that they exist. Can't fix a problem, can't fix something if you won't admit that it's broke. We can't fix the problem with children if we don't even have an honest discussion about it. And it's got to be across the board, which is why I said you have to be careful when you say the kids should be locked up with their parents for crimes that the kids commit. Because at any given time, it can be your child. You can be at home in your bed, sleep, and your child can ease on out of there and be on the other side of town doing something they ain't got no fucking business. Or they could be coming home from school and get involved in something. And you can wind up in prison for that. And I think in the back of your mind, what you'll be saying in court is, but I don't send my son or my daughter to do this. I don't send my son or daughter to do that. Like I said, I got sent to school. Sometime when I was in the 9th grade, I went. And sometime I said, fuck it. I'm leaving early. Oh, I ain't even going. My mama ain't here today. I'm gonna fucking stay home all day. She didn't raise me like that. That was something I chose. So when it was time to take the punishment, I took it. I never said that my mama should be at fault with that. And that's what I want you to think about. And I want you to think about other kids' parents. I know the theory is that they should be charged with their children, but in practice, it's not practical. And there's going to be a lot of collateral damage. And once you open that box, you can't close it back. So, like I said, I feel it's more of a case-by-case basis. If that's what you want to do, if that's what you want to support, but having a blanket law like that, it'll be a lot of catastrophe out there. Because like I said, if everybody listened to their parents, we wouldn't have a such thing as crime now, would we? We would be getting armed to hunt and to go out and competition shoot with each other. We wouldn't be getting legally armed to protect ourselves from anybody. So I just want you guys and girls to think about that. With that being said, the incinerator's burned out. We appreciate you guys and girls tuning in. This has been another good live stream. I know a lot of people didn't tune into it. You know, we do what we can here. You know, if you believe in this message, pass it on to somebody. Pass it on to somebody you know that need to hear this. If you know people that's new to firearms and they want to learn a lot of the ins and outs, I may not show cleaning guns and all that, but I give them a lot of education here on this channel that they may not get from other channels, because that's not their niche. Here, we the nutritious channel, we the fruitful channel, and that's what I believe in giving. The best content I can. It may not always be entertaining, but it's good for the soul. If you take your emotions out and you listen to what I say, it'll always make sense. With that being said, everybody, I want y'all to be safe out there. Shout out to you if you're catching me on the replay. All right. Until next time, stay safe, stay on high alert. Me out.